Welcome. I'm so glad you guys are here. We really look forward to these classes and being able to meet with you guys and visit a little bit and share some recipes and a few other little tidbits. So we're so glad that you could come tonight. Yeah, you have emailed me. I have emailed you. That's how we communicate. So. Sometimes I email you probably more than you would like, but then we have Heather, and then you've met her before, and you'll meet her again in a minute. And then tonight we have Teresa, and we are members of the Helena Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Okay, we're good now.
Okay, I'm not starting over. And we all like to cook, and oh, I'm sorry. We also have Deborah who helps us, and she's kitchen support. This is Heather. If it's your first time meeting her, and then you'll see Teresa in a minute. She's just counting, so we make sure we have enough food plated up for you. And then Joshua here does our tech support. We just met the pastor, and then in a little bit we'll have Jonathan who will come, and he will give us a little bit on some health topic. We enjoy cooking, I told you that, and we enjoy being here with you guys. We also believe that the current events kind of are leading us to feel that plant-based cooking is healthier, more sustainable for us individually, and then maybe as a planet. So that's another reason that we do these classes. And then we also like to learn and to share, and almost every time, maybe every time, I learn something that I don't know, usually from you guys, because I'll say something and you're like, no, can I? And so, and that's good. We like that. We like that, so that we get to hear a little bit from you guys too. This class, did I already talk about that? Nope. And the second one? Okay, thank you. We have, from this class, we want it to be a place for you to, like, if this is your first plant-based experience today, then you're like, oh, I can start here and I can change. Or if I have this favorite recipe that has maybe meat or other things in it that you're trying to do more vegetables, then this could be a starting point. And you can, if you like any of the recipes, you could try them at home. If you almost like the recipes, you can tweak it and do it at home. And then maybe search for more recipes. My sister, I have two sisters, but one of my sisters is 7 years younger than I am, and she, you would not consider anything vegetarian, so, what is that?
It's just
okay. My brother has a shirt that says vegetarian is Indian for poor hunter, or that kind of, those kind of people. So, but my sister, about a month ago, she texted or emailed or called me and said, do you have any recipes with vegetables? I would like to broaden instead of my chicken, pasta, and cheese, I would like to daily, I'm not joking, I would like to broaden and see if she doesn't like beans, she doesn't like. So I thought that was kind of cool. She's willing to try, maybe think about trying. So that's just a kind of what we're here for. If you have something that you like, and then it's like, oh, well, I can do this. We try to simplify it so that it's like, oh, it's not that hard after all, because I think that kind of keeps some people from trying new things, anything. I personally was a very picky eater until, I don't know, last 5-10 years. And then when, like Asian food, whatever. I used to eat meat, I would have sweet and sour chicken, which is not really even Asian. It's American, you know. But once I started cooking it myself, it was much easier to eat it. You know, like I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. I think I probably told you before, I worked in a high school cafeteria that was vegetarian, and for years, I kid you not, probably 10 years, I made tofu, scrambled tofu, and I would not eat it. I would not try it. And then I made a Korean beef that's a tofu that's, you know, a different way, and I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. So then I started trying the other things that we made with tofu. So you know, it's a stepping place for where you can start or where you can continue or expand your knowledge or your recipes. Excuse me. We recognize that our diet affects our whole being, not just the food that we put in our mouth, but our whole health. You know, if we eat a lot of sugar, or if we were to eat a lot of caffeine or something like that, we're probably not going to feel very good the next day. Now, granted, if you're a caffeine drinker and you stop, you're probably not going to feel good the next day. That's how I usually end up being. But anyway, the other thing is, if you have recipes at home that are almost plant-based, sort of, not even close, but you like the recipe, you can use that recipe and kind of change it a little bit so that it becomes plant-based or a little more healthy for you. Any little changes will help as a step into making bigger changes, if that's what you desire to do. I forgot to remind you that I know Sam had done this for years, a year and a half. And I don't know what he said in his talks, in his welcomes, because we were back there and we were cooking, and you can't really hear what's going on out here. So if I'm repeating the same stuff over and over, I apologize for that. Okay, so that's basically what I have to say. We do have a disclaimer. If you want to try plant-based and you have any concerns about whether or not it's healthy or right for you, talk to your healthcare provider and see what they can, I don't know if recommend's the right word, but if it would be safe. I do not have a cold. I may have some nerves, but anyway, so our first recipe is going to be with Teresa, and this will be her first time to present with us, and she is doing sweet and sour tofu. So it'll take us just a minute to get it set up so that you can hear about that.
All these faces staring at me. Oh, and there's my husband. Even scarier. That's the scariest person in the audience right there. All right, I'm going to make sweet and sour tofu for you tonight, and because of the time it takes to cook, I've done some prep ahead of time, and I'll share that with you. And so if you have the recipe, the first thing is to drain and set aside the pineapple. So the pineapple's just drained, and then you want to reserve the pineapple juice because you use that to make your sauce. So you whisk the pineapple juice, some rice vinegar, and the original recipe does call for rice wine vinegar. Sometimes I use that, sometimes I use this. Ketchup. So I have some good old organic ketchup with no corn syrup. I understand some people like to make their own. I do not. I make some things my own, but that's not one of them. Soy sauce. My grandkids tell me this brand is the best. I don't know if it's true or not, but they're snobs when it comes to soy sauce. And then some brown sugar. And so I don't know. I've spent my whole adult life with my brown sugar getting hard clumps in it. And I finally discovered the secret to avoid that. So my stepdaughter made these little plates, and you can buy them. They're made out of clay, and they look about like that. And you soak them in water for 20 minutes, and you put them in your brown sugar. Then you close your bag real tight, wrap it up with a tie, put it in a plastic bag, squeeze all the air out, and the next time you need to use it, it won't be dried out. And this, if you don't know this trick, it's been pretty life-changing for my brown sugar. All right, so, all right, gloves, sorry. This is my first time, so I'm just winging it here. And they told me after I got here I needed to talk for about 15 minutes, so this should be fun. So this is the sauce. This is what it looks like when I put all those ingredients together, and then I took a fork and whisked it all up. And then it says, place the tofu in a large bowl. So my tofu is already done. And I'll explain that process in just a minute. But I understand you guys have not been exposed to a tofu press yet. And my stepdaughter brought me this one, and it is like so cool. I was reading on the internet about how much I was spending on paper towels, because I always did my tofu in paper towels. And it's like a normal human being will use $18,000 worth of paper towels in a year, or in a lifetime. And I thought, well, I could have a lot of fun with that money. So I embarked on a mission to stop using so many paper towels, or to stop using paper towels and use cloth towels that can be washed. So I had to dig out the tofu press. No more pressing my tofu in paper towels. So it looks like this. You take your brick of tofu, you put it between these two plastic things, you set it in there, you slide the lid on, and then it has this nice little spring. And you just push it in there, and you push it, and you turn, and you push some more and turn, and you leave it in there for a few minutes, and there's a little spout here, and you pour your liquid out. You open it up, pull your tofu out, and it's got the liquid pressed out of it. And this particular one is named Tofu Bud. I think some of them are easier, some of them are more complicated. If I could figure this out without the instructions, it's pretty easy. So, when you take your tofu out of the press, you want to cut it into pieces about like so, about the size of a pineapple tidbit. Some of the recipes cut them into bigger pieces, but if you use too big of a piece, when you marinate it, it won't absorb enough of the taste, and when you cook it, it won't be done. So if you like your tofu kind of squishy, which I do not, then you could do bigger pieces. I like to cut mine small, and it says to use just 3 tablespoons of the sauce, but I just dump my whole tofu into my liquid. I let it sit. If you want to let it sit overnight, it'll have even more flavor. You don't have to. You could make it ahead, and it would save you quite a bit of time in the process. So it says the directions from the recipe say, let marinate for at least 5 minutes and up to 30 minutes. The longer you marinate it, like I said, the more. And then after you're done marinating your tofu, you're going to cook it. And so then, while you're cooking it, you're going to add some cornstarch, which I have cornstarch right here, to your sauce. And you're going to whisk it in with just a fork works fine, except I didn't bring a fork out. So somebody in the kitchen is going to find me a fork. They're scrambling. I can see it. They're going, fork.
Is a plastic one?
They'll bring me one out. Oh, thanks, Deb. All right, so you take your fork, you just whisk it in there. And the recipe calls for half a cup of juice. I use a cup of juice, 3/4 of a cup of juice. You know, I kind of like my sweet and sour sauce to have some juice in it. So if you use more juice, you might have to add a little extra cornstarch to make it thicken up. But other than that, you're good. So the next thing you do is you start up your pan. And you put in some canola oil. Try not to make a mess here that the kitchen will have to clean up. All right, so you put on some cornstarch in your sauce. Then you take and you heat up your oil. You put your tofu in it. Remember, your tofu has been marinated. It doesn't look like this. And you cook it, and it takes about 7 to 9 minutes to brown it like this. And so, as you can see, it's not brown on all sides. It's just get it kind of brown, get it kind of firm. And then you get a scoop, and you take it out of your pan and set it to the side. So your tofu's cooked. It's no longer in your pan. Then you take your pan, and you add ginger and garlic. And this is, I used fresh ginger and fresh garlic. You can buy minced ginger and minced garlic, so you don't have to do the work, but I kind of like the fresh stuff. And my husband is willing to peel the ginger for me and the garlic. So I'm going to show you real quick. Maybe I'll put this in the pan to start cooking. And so this is what I used on the ginger. If you've not had fresh ginger, you peel the brown off of it, and then you have to mince it. And I do not like to mince ginger. I can't ever get it fine enough that I feel like it cooks. So this is like a lemon zester, and I just take the ginger and grate it, and it works really great, especially for this recipe. And then we have a garlic press that we use to mince the garlic after it's peeled. And then you put it in the pan and you stir it around in the oil. And I don't know if you've used fresh ginger, but it's kind of, it's got like little strings in it. It's very fibrous. And so you just fry that for just a minute until it starts to smell strongly, which it will because it's garlic and ginger. Then you add some red and green peppers. So my husband does not like green peppers, and I don't like any peppers. So when I cook it, I make it without peppers. But for the sake of this class, in our test class, everybody liked it with the peppers except me and my husband. So I made it both ways, and they're like, it's really great with the peppers. So tonight you get peppers. So you'll have to pick them out, Vince. Oh, he ate them. All right, so you add your peppers, and then you want to stir it around until your peppers just start to get a little soft and chewy. And it calls for a lot of peppers, a large pepper, a large red pepper, a large green pepper. I used about half a pepper of each. But if you like peppers, use more. If you only like red peppers, only use red peppers. This recipe is so forgiving. Whatever you do, it will turn out. All right, so it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to get your peppers where you need them to be. We'll patiently wait. Do you guys have any questions? Now would be a good time if you do.
Will you say the name of the brand of that tofu?
It's called a tofu bud. Tofu, B-U-D. And I'm sure she got it off Amazon. I don't know if you can find one in town or not, but I know that's who shipped it to me. All right, any more questions? All right, we're about to get to the exciting part. That's like when it's ready to eat. So you can see if you've made your tofu the night before, it really does help cut the time it takes to put this all together, especially if you're like coming home from work and wanting to have something relatively quick. All right, so after your peppers are soft, and we're going to go ahead and say these peppers are soft enough, you pour in your sauce and just stir it around, and it should get thick relatively quickly. Okay, once it gets thick enough for you, you add the pineapple. Add your tofu, which your tofu would not take very long to heat up if it hadn't been in the refrigerator all night like mine had, because I cooked it yesterday because I knew I didn't have time today to get this ready. So you mix it all together, heat it up, take your rice, and here you go. That easy. Any questions?
I have one more.
Okay.
Do you know, will tofu spoil at room temperature? Like if you marinated your tofu the night before and just left it out?
I don't leave it out if I marinate it the night before. If I'm going to marinate it for probably longer than 30 minutes or an hour, I put it in the fridge. I just put it in the marinade, put it in the fridge. Sometimes we eat quite a bit of tofu, and sometimes I'll cut the brick in half, and I'll use like half of it for teriyaki slices and half of it for this. And so I'll put it in, and sometimes I'll let the teriyaki marinate for 2 days and pull it out, drain it in the fridge. Yes, in the fridge. I would not leave my tofu out because when I buy it refrigerated, so I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be refrigerated. So that's kind of how except I can tell you I used to buy my ginger at Vans, and it was always refrigerated in the vegetable cooler. And I went in this week to buy it, and Town and Country took over. The ginger is out with the potatoes. So I don't know that ginger needs to be refrigerated, but I still took it home and put it in my fridge.
Tofu you need to keep at 40 degrees or lower. That's per the health department. So, what you do in your own home is up to you, but for safety, it's 40 degrees or lower, 41 degrees or lower. But it'll marinate in the fridge too. So.
Yeah, it's fine in the fridge.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you.
Okay, they have to do a little bit of switch around. It's going to take a minute. Tomorrow, I am teaching little kids. At this church, they're a group, and they're adventurers. So they're 10 years to 4 years. It's supposed to be 10 to 4. So that age group. And we're doing Cooking Fun is the name of the award that they're doing. And I would like to know what you guys think would be the best thing they should know. We also have talked about like the 4 food groups, or not the 4, but the food groups, and how much you should have, and what's a balanced diet and that kind of thing. So what do you think either you wished you would have known when you were 7 or 8, or a good thing that you think every 7 or 8-year-old should know? I'm just taking up time, but I'm curious to know what you're.
I feel like it would be really fun if we taught them how to pickle something.
Oh.
It's not something that hardly any kid
Uh-huh.
Teach their parents. I'm sure their parents don't know.
Oh, that's a good idea. We're making a picnic, and then we're going to go eat it outside. Hopefully it's nicer than today. And,
Have to save it for the following.
right. But the pickles, I have a 10-minute quick pickle recipe. Yes, Miss Peggy?
I would, when I was teaching young kids, I would bring peelers in
Uh-huh.
and let them actually, I don't know,
Right.
people don't peel their carrots or
Yeah.
cucumbers and things, but it's an art for kids to learn how to peel.
Ah,
Fruit flies
that's a good idea. We have those little plastic, they're like called practice knives or something like that. So they're part of the requirement is they make 2 salads, make a picnic, make 2 sandwiches, that kind of thing. So they're gonna be cutting, so we might have this size of pineapple and this size of strawberry. I don't know. It's gonna be good. It'll be fine. Yes.
When I was in my late teens, early 20s, and made my first Indian Asian dish, I mixed up cloves versus bulbs for garlic.
Oh,
3 bulbs of garlic.
wow. So now do you love garlic or you would rather not like have it?
But I never realized the difference.
Oh, that's true. Another story along those lines, I worked at a high school and the people were going on a camping trip, so they would give me the ingredients and I would get everything together for them and then they would go off on their camping trip. And she asked for, let's see, 3 heads of celery. 3 heads of celery? And so I'm pretty sure that's what she called it. She might have used a different. And so I sent 3 bunches of celery with her. And she's like, oh, I just need 3 little twigs, just 3 ribs of them. And I'm like, well, that's not what you said. So, yeah. But anyway, I think Miss Heather may be ready.
You know, another
Yes?
fun thing with the carrot peelers, or you can, like for the older, if you have any artists in there, like 8 and 9-year-olds, if they do it harder and slower, it'll curl, like
Ah.
for carrots, cucumbers, they can make roses.
Yeah, I actually have, I think it's called a channel knife, and you can do it on carrots. So you'd peel the carrots, and then you would do that, and then when you slice it, it looks like a flower.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I was like, okay, we're gonna let Heather tell you about hers now.
All right. Is that good? All right. Creamed asparagus. So asparagus are in season right now. So we're doing asparagus. And I'm gonna get that going. So it's kind of a dual thing. Yeah. You get your vegetables started. Tonight, for demonstration purposes, we're not gonna use the vegetable water. And of course, I forgot something. That's all right. We'll use a whisk. It works, right?
I'm sorry, does anyone have any allergies? I usually ask, but I'm not sure if I did this time. We have cashews in this, so.
Yeah, sorry about that. Cashews and the creamed asparagus. So, you can prepare your asparagus a couple different ways. You can chop them up, or you can just keep them whole and just kind of put the cream and vegetables over them. If you keep them whole, I'd maybe like roast them a little bit, get them tender. I personally don't like raw asparagus, but somebody out there does, I'm sure. But yeah, you get your vegetables ready, you get them cooking, you get them going, and the prep really is what takes the longest over here. And then once that gets going, you can work on your sauce. So the sauce is, unfortunately, we have a cashew allergy. You can substitute cashews with like almonds sometimes. Yeah, I'm sure you know quite well what. Yeah, there's substitutions that you can use for cashews. I should have just clicked and made at least a little bit without it. Oh, yeah. But yeah, there's substitutions out there. So for the cream sauce, I'm also going to talk a little bit about cornstarch. You don't have to use cornstarch. I did tonight for you, but you can use like some flour. There's something called clear gel out there. You can use that. But just something, when you get the sauce going, something to just kind of thicken it and get it going. Again, we talk a lot about chicken seasoning. You can find vegan chicken seasoning most anywhere. You can also make some for yourself if you want to. Just kind of, I had a recipe somewhere, I've not been able to find it. But the cream sauce is pretty basic. So the secret to the cream sauce is how long you blend. Hopefully I got it nice and creamy for you guys tonight. If not, it's because I didn't blend it long enough, and I apologize. You want to blend it at least a full 2 minutes. The advantage of using the water from your vegetables is it's already a little bit warm. So get your cashews a little softer. And I don't know, that it's just, it also adds some flavor into the sauce too. You know, you don't lose any flavor. But probably should have cooked the vegetables a little bit before I got out here, sorry. But yeah, I'm gonna try and see if we can move this over enough to get the blender going. So also with the recipe, you're gonna use 3.5 cups of water. Don't use half of that amount. Made that mistake. That's what we do here. We make the mistakes for you. But you'll add half the water first, blend, and then when you go to thicken it in the saucepan, you'll add the rest of the water. The people who created this lovely recipe, they're like, hey, just put the water in the blender first to kind of swish it around. So you're, again, not losing any flavors. You're keeping everything kind of right there. So we'll figure it out. Don't stress. I haven't turned it on yet. Yep. So we'll turn it on and it's going to get really loud. Is it off? Yep.
Did you just trip it?
I tripped it. All right. So I would actually probably end up letting it go a little bit longer. Don't worry, I'm not going to feed this to you tonight. I'll take it home and eat it myself. I'll solve for my own problems here. Of course. So it's going to come out pretty watery, but you can thicken it pretty quickly. But really, when you guys get going on this recipe, it's actually a very quick, very easy recipe to like come home, make at night. You don't have to put a lot of prep into it, put a lot of time into it. Those are my kind of recipes. Dawn over here, she's like cook extraordinaire. Me, yeah. I make it. I get there. So one thing is when you get this going, at first when you're heating it up, you can kind of leave it alone. But once it starts warming up and starts to thicken, keep a whisk in there, keep it stirring, keep it going. Otherwise you're gonna get lumps. It's gonna kind of start to stick to the bottom. You don't really want that, or maybe you do. I don't. But you do want to keep a real good eye on that and keep it going. So when asparagus are not in season, and tonight we use like mushrooms, red pepper, onion. This is something that you can kind of swap out for different vegetables and different things. So like whatever's in season, that would be something good to put in there. You can kind of make it your own once you kind of figure it all out. We use mushrooms kind of to add something meaty to it, but like if you have like gluten steak, we've had gluten steaks here in the past, or soy curls, if you've heard of those, cutlet type things. You can add different proteins in there to kind of give it a little meatier taste. But any questions, comments? Yeah. Clear gel, it's a thickener, and I usually do my homework. I have not gone and looked for it in town because I usually rely heavily on either cornstarch or flour, but it's just another way to thicken. Yeah. Just cornstarch, but really what you're looking for is something to thicken. Oh boy, we're already sticking. Say that again? Yeah, I would say you can. This handy dandy book usually gives you hints about freezing. They didn't say anything, but I would probably not freeze the vegetables, but maybe the sauce. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. All right. Any other questions?
Would you want to soak the cashews before?
Huh?
Would you soak the cashews before?
So, great question. Thank you. I feel like that was a planted question. So, soaking cashews, or whatever nut you're going to use, or not nut. If you have a high-powered blender, this is a Vitamix. You don't have to really worry about that so much. But if you have maybe, like, not a high-powered blender, you know, you got grandma's blender handed down to you from generations ago, and it just doesn't cut it, I would probably soak my cashews a little bit beforehand and definitely use that warm water when you're blending. Yeah. Yes, yes. But yeah, little hints and tips and tricks. All right. Oh, thank you. You can thank the cookbook. It's a favorite cookbook of mine. The people who created it owned a restaurant many years ago, I think in Seattle or Portland, somewhere over there. There. Yes. 7 Secrets Cookbook. I looked for it the other day. I didn't see it on sale, but maybe if you check out like used book places, 8 Books or something, you might be able to find it. All right. I don't know that I want to spend the whole time here to get this thickened for you guys to see it, but just trust me, it'll thicken. If there's no other questions, we'll hand it off to Dawn. I want to take these.
Okay, what do you think that sound was? No, Heather dropped it. Okay. So we're doing this a little different this time just because of what it is. So it's cookies, but we have 3 different kinds. We have the pastor is handing out the napkin, and then Miss Deborah is going to pass out the ones that have craisins in them. And then Miss Teresa is going to pass out the ones with chocolate chips. And then Heather has the ones that are made with the date paste instead of sugar and has craisins in them. So you get to keep track of them on your napkin instead of us trying to figure out how to tell you in this dish. So, okay. Okay, so these cookies are from that same cookbook that Heather was using for her creamed asparagus. I think I also heard her say that we make the mistakes for you. Yeah, I'm not going to show anything. Okay. So I'll tell you, the first time I made this, I made it like it is, like the recipe is, but with no walnuts in it. So, and all of the cookies have walnuts in them. Just if you're allergic to walnuts, all of the cookies have walnuts in them. So the first time I made it as is, but I didn't put walnuts in it because I am not a fan of nuts in baked goods. I'm getting more accustomed to it, but it's not my favorite thing, especially if it's chunks. It's like, anyway, so that was the first one, and it came out very thin, in my opinion. It was very thin. It was like a thick pancake batter. Okay, so just keep this in mind. If you don't like nuts or can't eat nuts, you could make them, but take don't add as much milk or milk/water in it. So, okay, so there's that. The next time I made it, I'm like, well, it's got to be because, and so I changed 2 things instead of changing just one thing. So I just put the can of coconut milk without the extra to make it 2 cups. And I put the walnuts that were closer to walnut meal than chunks of walnut. So do you hand it to them? Okay. Yes. Anyway, so then they were kind of thick. I have cookie dough somewhere. Can you guys find the cookie dough? The 2, oh, right there on the microwave. This microwave. Thank you. So I made them, and they were very thick. So I pressed them down a little bit, and so they would cook. So they would actually be a cookie instead of a ball of ice cream, you know. So and then I got into a discussion with someone who does not like to press their cookies down, and I'm like, it's okay, it's okay. So then if you make it with the milk, all the milk up to 2 cups, and the nuts, I don't think you'll have to press it. I think it will, you might have to press just a tiny bit, but I think it will come out better. And then you have a ball, something like this, and just press it a little bit. Like I had to press it like that. So did you find the other ones, Heather?
Yep.
Okay.
So would minced, in that recipe where it says 1 cup of walnuts minced, I mean, that's just almost like
meal.
cornmeal or
Yeah, almost. They're not quite that that small, but I'm allergic to being up here. I'm sorry.
I think there's a spice in there.
I don't know what it is. I use a little food processor. You've seen it before if you've been here many times. It's just like this big. I put the nuts in there. And my granddaughter was there, so she got to do it 3 times. Anyway, so that's how I usually do it.
So if they're unrecognizable, do you like them in there? Or-
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. I just don't like the texture, I think, of them. So I don't really know if there's anything else to say about the recipe. I mean, just you guys are all cooks, so you know you can read it, follow it, and anyway, just the nut thing was my and the coconut milk. Okay, have you tasted all of them?
Very good.
The date paste one is probably a little less sweet. So, does it? So depends on how you like, what you like for your sweetness on that. We'll go back to the rice. The rice you had tonight was brown. Most of it was brown jasmine. I don't know what it is. It just keeps, I'm sorry. Brown jasmine with a little bit of brown basmati and then whole grain in there. Not whole grain, it's all whole grain. Wild rice, yes, the blackish was wild rice. And I just did this same recipe. I had to do it in a bigger container so that there was enough for everyone. So it took a little longer than the hour. But if you're just doing it in a 9x13 pan, you spray it, you put it in there, you put the water in it. If you want seasoning, tonight's didn't have any seasoning because when we tried it in our practice, it made everything taste too salty. So, and then spray the tin foil and put it over the top. You don't want the tin foil to touch the food, but you spray it and put it over the top, and then you just bake it. Like you put it in there, turn it on, walk away, which is much better for me than trying to do it on a pot on the pan, which always ends up burning. I don't know. Or gummy, one of the two. I did not taste the rice tonight. It might be gummy. You have on the back of the rice one, you have your bonus recipe. You're not going to try this tonight, but it's a student and I. She is from Nepal. That's why we're calling it Nepalese rice or Nepalese lentils. And she's like, no, because I was making good old American, lentils that have potatoes and carrots and thyme and, that kind of, she's like, this is not lentils, Mrs. Fagan. This is not. I said, well, how do you make it? Do you have the recipe? Can you get it from? She's like, oh yeah, I can. She's like, you put a little of this and you put a little, and I'm like, Samira, I need how many tablespoons? Well, I don't know, like this much, So then I measured it when she was talking. So anyway, this one you can use, like it says, the ginger powder or the fresh. And on this one, when I made it for our practice, it was very salty because I used regular salt instead of the seasoned salt. And most of you probably know, if you read the ingredients on seasoning salt, it's not all salt. So just keep that in mind when you're making it. Do you have any questions about these recipes?
Do you have a preference on the lentils you use when you make this?
I use the ones that you get in most stores, probably, that just say lentils. Almost all the other ones say either red lentil or green lentil or brown lentil or something. I just get the ones that say lentil. They're usually a greenish, brownish color, but they're not green French or brown, but that's the color they are. So, Jody.
Oh, I found my answer. I wondered what this pickle salsa was for.
Oh, yeah, it's a spicy. So this is also from Samira. She's like, and then we put pickle on it. I'm like, you put pickle on it? And she's like, no, like relish. I'm like, you put relish on it? It was it was a translation. She didn't know, so I just kept it because I thought it was cute. So it's now pickle. So anyway, any other questions or more questions? Okay, Jonathan's going to tell us some information. It's going to be, oh, yes. Oh, yeah, sure. Thank you, Jonathan.
You're welcome. That's this way? Does that work? Okay. That was not terribly convincing, but I'll take it.
I'm going to interrupt for a second. If anyone wants any more, just raise your hand and we'll bring you some more. You want more cookies?
Cookies don't even taste like they're from the same recipe at all. I mean, like, not just changing out one ingredient or another. You know what I'm saying? It is. The cookies don't taste like they're just an ingredient.
Hello, good evening. I'm so glad to be back here in front of you all. Don't worry, I was threatened encouraged to stay within my time limit this time. So I will speak and then be done, and while you enjoy seconds of whatever it is that you'd like to have. So tonight we're talking about whole grains. That was kind of the underlying part of all the delicious food that you tried this evening, was whole grains. And so that's going to be the focus of this talk now, is about whole grains. If I can remember how to use this. It keeps turning off, but that's okay. The battery's dying. So we should probably start out with, what is a whole grain? You may already know, or you may not. So we'll just go ahead and cover it briefly. So a whole grain, it may also be did it work? There it is. Okay. It may not work behind my back. That might be the problem. So whole grains, so you go to a field, you find a plant that's growing in the grain category. You harvest that grain, you take off the husk in the case of wheat, and then you have what's called a whole grain. You have a kernel of whole grain harvested from a plant. It will contain a few parts, characteristics of the bran, the germ, and an endosperm. There's some other parts and pieces there if you're pedantic, but those are kind of the main pieces of a whole grain that you enjoyed, like I said, this evening. Some examples of whole grains are oats, brown rice, wheat, corn, not a vegetable, actually a grain, quinoa, bulgur, barley, spelt, amaranth, rye. There are more, but that was all I could fit on my slide. So there are a number of grains that are available for you to try. And yes, that is quinoa, not quinoa. That's definitely how I pronounced it when I first saw it was quinoa. Anybody else pronounce it that way when you saw that word the first time? Totally. I think I don't know why you would pronounce it quinoa, but that's what I'm told, so that's what it is. Fun fact, since we're talking about whole grains, does anyone know the word hordeari? It is Latin. Oh, you know this one.
It was the documentary you're probably familiar with.
Yes, that's correct.
They were plant eaters.
Yes. So that's right. This is a term, it is Latin, and it means barley muncher or barley and bean muncher. And it is a name that was given to the gladiators, the professional fighters of the Roman era, because that's what they subsisted on primarily, was barley and beans. They were vegetarians, actually. So you had these big, strong gladiators out there fighting, and they ate whole wheat, whole grains. There are some benefits to whole grains. Whole grains, they are a rich source of complex carbohydrates. They are high in fiber. They are a good protein source. Surprise, surprise. They have vitamins and minerals like B vitamins, folate, niacin. They're also good iron, magnesium, zinc, etc. They're also low in fat. So they're really good for you. That's quite a range of things there. But I thought protein only came from animals. Where do you think the animals get their protein? They munch on plants, including whole grains. I keep forgetting which side the computer's on. It's over there. But you're probably also thinking, but I also know there's refined grains. That's different, right? It is different. So refined grains, what they do is, well, before we talk about what they do, let's talk about the difference between refined grains and whole grains. And I got a couple of pictures here for you. How many people have tried or at least know of Wonder Bread? Yeah. Yes, Wonder Bread. That was like a staple, I think, of the 90s. Just the softest, most wonderful bread. I actually don't remember eating it that much because I was poor. But on the other side, the left side, we have kind of a picture of your average like whole grain wheat bread. It looks super dense, like you would be chewing for a while after you took a bite of that. One of these is made with a refined grain, and the other one's made with a whole grain. Obviously, there's a difference. You could take a piece of Wonder Bread, and you can crush it up, take it into a little ball, pop it in your mouth. You could probably eat most of the loaf and still be kind of hungry. You could take 1 or 2 slices of this other bread, and you will be full. And part of the reason for that is this process of refining the grain. So what they do to refine the grain, primarily, in the case of wheat, for example, is they put it and they mill it. And what they do is they take off that bran layer and that germ part, this little tiny plant that was going to grow out of this wheat. They take those off and they leave just the germ. They take the endosperm off. So they leave just the nutrient, or not nutrient rich, but now less nutrient rich carbohydrate center. There is actually a slight benefit to doing that, which we'll get to in just a second. So the bran layer that they mill off has fiber. That's where a big source of your fiber comes from. And that's what bulks up that bread. That's what makes the difference between that Wonder Bread and the whole wheat bread. That Wonder Bread has all that fiber removed from it. So now we just have that carbohydrate that doesn't have the bulk. There's no bulk to it anymore. It just stretches out into this big fluffy pillowy bread that is very enjoyable, but also is missing now B vitamins and minerals. The germ also gets removed and we lose fatty acids and minerals with that part of it. Interestingly, with those fatty acids, so if you take wheat and you store it, there is a little bit of oil in that whole wheat. Not very much, but a tiny little bit. And if you were to store that on your shelf or in your pantry for months and months, that oil will actually, or can and will go rancid. And so it can actually spoil your wheat. So if you wanted to lay up a bunch of wheat to survive, say a Montana winter, you would actually want to go ahead and mill off that outer layer. So there was a purpose behind this. So now it extends the shelf life of the food. But there's a trade-off, right? You want it to last longer, but you had to give up some of the benefits of the whole grain. The downsides now are the reduced nutrient profile. We lost all those minerals, we lost the B vitamins, and we also lost the fiber. And then there's this idea of enriched, right? You see that on the packaging. It looks like bleached flour, but it's enriched. So if I was to take a pile of logs and a pile of branches and dump a bunch of leaves on top of it, would you call that a tree? It's all the parts of a tree, but it's not exactly the same as a tree. And so enriching is I would say kind of like that process where you're adding things back in. We're using like science to add things back in, and it's kind of there, but it's not the same. And so you can live, anybody who watched it, was it Crocodile Dundee back in the day? You could live on it. Anyway, so we have some benefits to refining these grains, but there's also some downsides. So whether to eat it or not to eat it kind of depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? If the only thing you're surviving on is wheat, which I think a side note is bread builds nations. Like this is what man was built on, was bread, right? The ability to cook bread and to share it with your family, like your daily loaf of bread, that's what makes us civilized, really. So I have a few studies I want to go through about the benefits of whole grains. So we're going to go back to whole grains. I think refined grains, like I said, they provide the carbohydrates that your body desperately needs. Carbohydrates are essentially the fuel supply that our body is designed to run on. Carbohydrates go into your body snips them apart into little pieces that are then transported through your bloodstream to your muscles and are available for energy to go do things like gardening or running, or that's my favorite, running, hiking, lifting things, getting in your car, whatever. It's your body uses these carbohydrates. That's what it uses to run. You also need protein to rebuild muscles as they decay, as they break down, and we actually get those from whole grains as well. I found these kind of interesting as I was going through the research for this. So whole grains, refined grains, and cancer risk. So according to this, if I remember what the title was exactly, it was a study of meta-analysis of studies. It was like this multi-tiered inception of studies. So this guy did a study of a bunch of meta-analysis of other studies. So he had this pretty large sample group that he was looking at to see what the connection is with cancer risk. So he found there was a 3 to 20% lower risk for doses ranging from 15 to 90 grams of whole grains per day. The meta-analysis indicated that whole grain intake was consistently associated with lower risks of colorectal, colon, gastric, pancreatic, and esophageal cancers. The question, hopefully you're wondering, is, well, why is that? Because whenever you see something where it's like, this is connected to this, well, what's the mechanism? Why would that be? And the reason is, again, with the whole grains, it provides fiber, is a big part of that whole grain versus refined grains. Because what this study also found was that refined grains were, in some cases, associated with increased risk of colon cancers, or they provided no benefit at all. So it was either undetermined or it was bad for refined grains. But the whole grains, with that fiber, that bran coating, keeps things moving through your system, and it helps clean out your systems, gives your body that opportunity to expel impurities the way it's designed to get rid of things. If you don't have that fiber, as with the standard American diet, and things aren't moving very well, then things just sit there. And when things sit there and decay inside of your body instead of outside of your body, they're going to take some other things with it, like good tissues. And that's where you see all these are fairly related. Colorectal, colon, gastric, esophageal, those are all kind of in the same track, if you will. So there is also this other study. This is another study. Association between a dietary carbohydrate index and cardiovascular disease in the Sun Project. This one I found to be a bit more heady, but I was able to parse out some information that I wanted to bring to you. So this was a study of 17,000 middle-aged adults from Spain, and it was examining the association between the quality of the carbohydrates and the risk of cardiovascular disease. And it found that if you had better quality of carbohydrates in your diet, you had lower risk of cardiovascular disease. So the recommendation from this study was to focus your diet on carbohydrate, not just the quantity of carbohydrate, making sure you get enough carbohydrates, but also on the quality. And then it uses some big terminology like multidimensional assessment of the type and quality of the carbohydrate. By multidimensional assessment, I'm relating to you that think about what you're eating. So you want to get the highest quality carbohydrates you can. So instead of just going for, because you know what else is a carbohydrate? French fries. But they are not what we would call quality. So we have on this quality spectrum, again, you can go with refined grains like a white rice, which although we have developed a bit of a taste for it because it's softer, it might be a better quality to go for that wild rice or that brown rice or one of those rices that is more like its original state because it provides defense against cardiovascular disease. In another study, whole grain intake as a marker of health, of a healthy body weight and adiposity. Adiposity. It's spelled adiposity. Anyway, you read it, you write it down, but then you don't say it out loud until you get to here. So this was a systematic review and analysis of observational studies. It looked at 15 trials, 119,000 participants, male and female subjects, 13 years and older. I would call that relevant data, so I brought it here to you this evening. It showed that a higher intake of whole grains, that is approximately 3 servings a day, was associated with lower BMI and central, that's here, adiposity, because it actually depends where your weight is as much as how much weight you have. Abdominal weight is one of the worst kinds. It's one of the kinds that is the most indicative of negative health outcomes, is adipose tissue in the mid-region. So there was a definite correlation with whole grains and this better body composition. It also found that people who eat more whole grains often live healthier lifestyles. So it turns out that if you do that, as you would probably expect, if you come to a health class and you eat healthier, you care about your health and you do other healthy things. And all of those work together synergistically to give you that overall health benefit. So kind of looking over the list here again, benefits of whole grains in the long term, we have a lower risk for certain types of cancers. We have prevents heart disease and stroke. We can avoid weight gain. How does that work? It's carbohydrates. Carbohydrates make you fat. They told me that on Instagram. Well, it turns out carbohydrates don't necessarily make you fat because it depends on the quality of the carbohydrate. It turns out that if you eat whole grains with the fiber still there, it's hard to work your way through a whole wheat loaf of bread. Anybody ever tried Ezekiel bread? Yeah, or like a multi-grain bread. You start getting all those whole grains in there and like, I'm full. I'll be full for a little while. And that means that you're going to end up eating less, which means you're not going to gain weight because you're full and you're full longer. Those complex carbohydrates, as opposed to simple carbohydrates, burn slower because your body has to work to pull them apart. And so they don't enter your bloodstream quite as quickly as like a simple carbohydrate or like a sugar drink or something like that, which is just going to hit your system. I promised myself I wouldn't go down the rabbit holes. Okay, so we have prevents type 2 diabetes. That is actually also related to the weight gain. So if you can avoid weight gain, you can also predispose yourself to staying away from type 2 diabetes. We have improved gut health. Fiber, again, is very helpful for keeping things moving in your gut. Gut health is very important to overall health because if your gut's doing poorly, there are various things that can happen there with like for example, something called leaky gut, where your gut isn't functioning properly and random things from your digestive system get into your system, and that's not good. So we like to just have the proper things going into our system that are supposed to be there, not random things that we happen to ingest. Yeah. We also have a reduction in blood pressure among all the other benefits of the whole grains. So whole grains, like I gave you a list a little bit earlier, but here's kind of a picture where you can kind of see them. I do highly, oats are one that I love every morning. I don't make the granola, but I know a lady who does. And so I enjoy that frequently. I got my kids into it. We just, granola, get those whole grains, keeps me nice and full, carries me all the way through, whether I need to go all the way to lunch or whether I need to go to dinner, whatever, it's good stuff. I really appreciate quinoa. It's a fun little grain. It's kind of small. And the texture's just fun. And you can kind of mix it with different dishes, and because of its size and nature, and it comes in really cool colors, actually. Brown rice, you kind of got to acquire a taste for it, but there are different kinds of rices that can be easier to palate initially as you're getting into this, into these more healthy whole grains. And then there are ones on this list I haven't tried yet. Hopefully someday I will. So last few thoughts here. Refined grains, they're not necessarily evil, but you have to think about the whole picture. So holistically of what you're putting into your body. So if you're taking your white rice and you're sticking a piece of chicken on it, there's not a lick of fiber in there. And so that's not, you want a whole, but if you're taking your white rice, but you're putting a bunch of vegetables on it, you're at least not going to, it's not going to sit there. It's going to move through with the vegetables, will provide the fiber. So that holistic picture of trying to make the best choices we can as we, because they don't really sell like brown rice, and you go to the, like if you were going to go to the, what's it called? What? Yeah, Panda Express. They don't have, do they have brown rice? Not anymore. They didn't sell enough of it. That's right. I remember that. And then I was thinking of what's that hibachi place? Nagoya. Yeah. Nagoya, that's white rice. So, but you could go out and still have some, right? It's not the end of the world if you have a refined grain. Just remember what you're getting. Now that you have the tools and the information about what a refined grain is, you can know the type of fuel that you're putting into your body and what you can do to kind of offset the downsides of refined grains. So there was this, I found this because I've seen this before and I wanted to mention it tonight. Protein pairing or protein combining. Probably heard about that. Just briefly, we're not talking about protein tonight, we're talking about whole wheat, but protein's involved. There are 20 amino acids that they kind of list out. 9 of them are considered essential. They're called essential because our body doesn't produce them. You have to get them from an outside source. It was once thought that you needed to make sure that you got, this, and then I got to pair it with this so that I can get a complete amino. It's not that complicated with plant-based eating. What they've found through research is that if you are eating a whole food, varied plant-based diet, it sorts itself out. Your body finds all the things it needs and it puts it all together, and you don't have to worry about it, which is great because I like to not really think about it. It's too complicated. I don't want to spend all my time thinking about food. I just want to eat food and then move on with my life. And if I had to sit there and kind of think about, well, this one has the 5 amino acids, this one has the other 4, and I got to figure out how to put that together in a dish, that would be annoying. Also, then I would annoy my wife with my requests about, so anyway, we just eat a varied diet, and throughout the day, you eventually get everything you need from a variety of sources. I hadn't really run into this because I'm not really on social media, but apparently there is a push on social media from various sources about carbohydrates, whole wheat specifically, and how they contain anti-nutrients. I did want to just address that in case you've heard that out there. It's not backed by science. These are just statements on the internet. Most of I found an article it's in the reference section here in a couple of slides, but an article that kind of looked at specifically the quote unquote anti-nutrients in plant foods, and most of them are either theoretical problems that don't actually manifest, or they are things that are in, like for example, beans have, I think it's lectins. I'm trying to remember which ones now. Anyway, it has a couple of compounds in it that don't sit well if you were to eat them. But I dare any of you to eat raw beans. That would be kind of hard on your teeth, if anything. And the process of cooking actually denatures all of those particular anti-nutrients. So the concept of anti-nutrients, if you do run into it, it's not really backed by science. And so the whole grains do remain as a champion of improving your health. Whole grains are part of a balanced diet. You can't just eat rice only and expect to be healthy, just like you can't eat just broccoli and expect to be healthy, or even just chicken. You can't eat one thing and just expect that to cover all the bases in your health. So eating what I've heard often referred to as the rainbow. If you eat across the rainbow throughout any given day, you're going to get all the nutrients you need from a variety of different sources. I didn't check when I started, so hopefully I didn't go over. But any questions? Open to any questions. Here are a few of the references for a number of the studies that I found as part of this study. Oh, yes, please. Sorry.
A long time ago, I had heard that if you mixed rice and beans together, you maximize the protein in that.
Yes.
Good. And I put it in my chili all the time when I make chili. I also put tofu in there instead of meat. But could you put quinoa in there or some of the other grains instead of rice?
Certainly, yeah. I don't know how it would certainly change the texture of the dish, but although quinoa and rice aren't exactly the same, once again the whole grains you really can mix and match with that category of foods for sure. I always like a rice and beans mix myself. Rice and beans is good stuff. I also like mix of beans, like medley of beans. You get like a pinto bean and a black bean and a kidney bean, and get kind of a mix in there. Good stuff.
Do you have any familiarity with red rice or green jade pearl rice?
I have not tried either of those. Those sound kind of fun.
I'm thinking the jade pearl is probably more like white rice, and I'm imagining that the red rice is more like black rice.
I can't speak to that specifically, but I do, from my understanding of the way these kind of foods develop, the colors come from the nutrients that are in them. So some like your black beans have more of like an antioxidant, some of these certain antioxidant compounds. So like a darker, like a wild rice or like a green or a red rice, they're going to have other properties in them that are going to be beneficial for you, for sure. Yeah. That sounds cool. I always like the different colors. It's amazing some of the colors that are out there. Like I said, the quinoa. You can get tricolored quinoa, and it looks great. So, good.
Jonathan, just to wrap it up.
Yep.
On the rice and beans thing, that had to do with his, basically keep it simple, like you don't have to worry about it. It's important to have a grain and your legumes, but they don't have to be in the same meal. Years ago, yes, they're like, oh, you have to have rice with your beans. There's more research. It's always been true, but there's more research now. You don't have to have them in the same exact.
Right. Yeah. So you don't.
If you go to a Mexican restaurant, you always get rice and beans.
Oh yeah, it's a good staple. It fills you up. Rice and beans fills you up. Yeah. All right. Did you have a question? I thought no? Okay.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Jonathan.
Absolutely.